So I'm working an insurance job. I will be making commissions. My boyfriend is kind of scared because he doesn't think I'll be able to support us on a commission job. Is it's based on sales and performance and not so much a guaranteed wage. But my argument is if I'm working a salary job or a wage job, that's not guaranteed enough to support us anyway. I could be working 2 or 3 full-time jobs and we could still be homeless. So why should I be killing myself working if I can't live except for paycheck to paycheck? I'm not thriving, not even surviving. I'm just fighting to be able to buy food, pay rent, get my medications. Why is it so hard to live in America? It's gone downhill so bad, and they say capitalism is the best thing ever. But was it the Constitution that guarantees us freedoms, or was it the free market and capitalism? Because you can have a democracy, you can have the Constitution, and you can have socialism, Marxism, even communism. Capitalism is freedom for the rich, the few. It's a zero-sum game in which it's designed to exploit labor to gain capital for the person who owns that company. I'm a Marxist. I believe that the workers should own the right to their labor, that there should be no CEO who exploits it, that it should be like a community model. Basically, what's left after everything is paid off goes to the workers, and it should be run by the workers itself, voted, everything else, no shareholders, no outside investments. From what I understand about capitalism, it's like socialism, but instead of it being run by the government, it's run by private individuals and entrepreneurs, investors, capitalists, and it's to squeeze money out of people who provide the labor for that job. So instead of putting it back into the employees, you give it to the people who invested in the company. I call bullshit. That's not an effective model. Because we're a consumer-driven economy based on capitalism. How is it when people who work these jobs cannot afford to live? How will the people who produce the products which employ these people, how will they have buying power? How will they keep the companies and jobs afloat? Because we're using tax dollars from these wage servants to be able to pay the subsidies, bailouts, and all these other things for the corporations because they're paying their employees too little to live. So when they can't afford to buy things and the payments go out, they rely on taxpayer money. But when there's no jobs because AI's taking over everything, how will people pay taxes and the company survive? Because no one's getting money. No one's paying taxes. So will the companies go out of business too? And what becomes of the current state of things if that happens, if the economy basically collapses? Because they're talking about a UBI, but now my question is, why are we okay being dependent when it's a universal basic income, but not when people need Medicare for all, needed, cash assistance, because they always say, well, dependence is a form of slavery, so what is UBI? That's dependence on government money. It's, why is it good now, but it was never good then? People can't make their minds up unless it benefits what they need at that time. I've always been a Marxist. I've always been employees should have more rights than the employer. So if you get fired, you should be told why you're being fired. You don't have to be able to be fired and just, well, is it wrongful? No. You have a work right. Okay, right to work states. You should be able to work and not be fired for no reason unless you've given a clear explanation. And even so, I believe if you have a poor performance and it's your first warning, you should be able to be given 3 weeks to improve your performance. It shouldn't be just an immediate layoff. It should be a reprimand first. I mean, we're squeezing so much out of people and giving them so little. And I blame Reagan for this because he cut taxes on the billionaires. Well, at this point, millionaires because of the 80s. But anyway, my point is, when we were able to tax millionaires and the rich, we were able to circulate more money through the economy in taxes. Now all the money's going to the top, which is Reaganomics, saying it's going to trickle down, but it never trickles down. And another big hurt that we did to our economy is the bailout of the banks. Because under capitalism, nothing is too big to fail. You let it fail and restructure. And that's why we have what we have now. Because after the 2008 housing market, everybody that was a private investor and even public investors, I don't know if that's the thing, but investors just bought up all the marketing because it was so cheap. And now they're just raising the prices on because property taxes are going up. And they don't want to correct anything by producing more real estate, more houses, more anything. And also with the prices going up on food, goods, imports, everything, how are we supposed to survive? The basic income that people got in the 50s and 60s, you'd have to be making $66 an hour now to be able to match that spending power, and yet they're saying buying a coffee and avocado toast is the issue. You can't budget your way out of poverty, because if there's nothing left after you pay the bills, buy food, your groceries, and gas, you got nothing to say. So how does that work? And plus, there are people who are disabled, and it's called a partial disability, where they can work, but they can't get their medicine and any other therapies, like physical therapy, mental health therapy, psychiatry, and all that, because if they're working, they don't get the benefits anymore. So why can't they just make Medicare for all the things so people who can work can get the care they need while they are working? I mean, it's fucked up so bad, and it's a pain to see. I want to be able to work a wage job. But right now, like I said, I'm working in insurance because it's the only thing I feel safe doing because of my benefits. So, I mean, if any of you guys have any ideas on how I can, be able to work and keep my medical, but not so much the check, I'd be happy. And, another thing is, too, I can't earn over $1,260 a month without losing my benefits. So, I mean, I don't know what to do. And you guys say, well, just work harder. Well, that's the thing. I can't just work harder, because the more harder I work, the more money I'll get, and I'll be fucked. So what am I supposed to do? I mean, I'm not asking or trying to complain. I'm just trying to figure out a solution. And it's just hard. I mean, we're losing money for Medicare and all this because there are people who are physically able to work, but they can't because, let's say, they're diabetic, they need their insulin, they can't afford insulin on insurance through work. So they have to go on Medicaid or Medicare, both, to be able to get the health care they need. I'm diabetic, I have autism, and I can work. I'm getting a degree in cybersecurity, like I'm working in insurance sales, but I am so scared that once I lose my insurance, I will lose my medication. Why is it rigged? I know that capitalism is a zero-sum game that not everybody can win, but the rules should be at least abided by fairly and not stacked against some and the rest against others. It's supposed to be a fair game, and I'm not saying the outcome's equal for everybody, but the outcome should be able to be fair to get there. So, I mean, you work hard, you get the investors and start a company, you should have the equal rights. Government contracts, subsidies should not be awarded to the few. There should be real competition in monopolies and subsidies, government contracts, and bailouts of banks and corporations. Because I believe if we don't subsidize fuel industry, such as big oil, coal, we would have renewable resources. I would actually be a big advocate for this thorium nuclear reactor that uses molten salt and thorium. But, we can't get that here because we'd rather give our money to the companies because the politicians and millionaires have stock and shares in these companies that produce oil and gas and diesel. I mean, I could see there being a nuclear fusion powered reactor that can be small enough to be put into cars and trucks. I mean, I know it sounds scary, but a fusion reactor is a lot safer than a fission reactor. Fusion is where it compresses into itself like the sun. Fission is where it expands outward. That's like the bomb. So you could have a truck that has infinite clean fuel and no radiation from the reactor because it goes into itself. And we could have all this stuff if we didn't keep worrying about how much oil we're going to get, because, it's never meant to be stagnant. The economy, creation, everything. I believe we need to get back to the roots of creation, where we spend money to make new ideas, new research, and all this, instead of having to keep where we're at and just making things that make money but have no real use to us. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Neckbeard out. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.